It's renowned as the most exotic island chain in the world. Pristine sands, azure blue seas, and colourful reefs make Zanzibar a much-loved holiday destination. But it's also home to some of nature's most bizarre creatures. Many have grown to enormous sizes and now roam wild throughout the archipelago, whilst marine giants patrol the island shores. Zanzibar is an untamed wilderness. Zanzibar is a land of giants. Lying 40 kilometers off the east coast of Tanzania, in Africa, the Zanzibar archipelago is dominated by two islands, Unguja and Pemba. Unguja is the larger of the two, measuring just over 80 kilometers long and 30 wide. Around 110,000 years ago, the Indian Ocean sea levels began to drop. Enormous fossilized coral reefs were revealed, giving birth to Zanzibar and the many smaller islands surrounding its coast. Isolated from the mainland, many of the species here have evolved unique characteristics. But what makes Zanzibar such an extraordinary group of islands is many of the creatures here are giants of their kind. Zanzibar's ocean holds one of the world's greatest giants. Whale sharks are the largest fish in the sea. They can grow to over 20 meters and weigh up to 34 tons. That's more than 5 African elephants. Although dwarfing everything in their wake, luckily for most sea-dwelling creatures, they survive on some of the smallest organisms in the ocean, plankton. Known as filter feeders, they can sift over 6,000 liters of water an hour. Fine filters, also known as gill rakers, trap any organism over 2 millimeters wide. Most species of shark wave their tails to propel themselves. However, whale sharks are unique in moving their entire bodies from side to side. They remain close to the surface, and their top speed is a modest 5 kilometers per hour. It isn't just giants that are attracted to these plankton blooms. Smaller fish also move in to feed. Although the fish aren't the whale shark's prey, there is a downside to dining with giants. These fishermen know that where there's a whale shark, there are also fish to be caught. Wasting no time, they head straight to the shark. But battling against the waves is tough work in their small dugout canoe. Luckily for them, whale sharks spend vast amounts of time feeding at the surface. So time is on their side. Casting their net right in its wake is a guarantee for a good catch. It would normally take a whole day to land a haul of this size. But guided by their whale shark neighbor, the fishermen's nets are soon full. Traveling further down the reef, another giant looms. Of the 400 or so species of ray, the manta is the largest. These alien-looking creatures can grow to an incredible 7 meters across and weigh as much as 2 tons. They lead solitary lives and only come together in large numbers under certain conditions. These manta rays have traveled far to this section of the reef for a special service. This cleaning station provides the opportunity for a good once-over from attentive cleaner fish. Flashes of blue and yellow advertise their presence. And the clients happily flood into the ocean's very own beauty salon. But before the manta rays take up this service, they need to form an orderly queue. Individuals size one another up by swimming parallel to the reef. Once a hierarchy is established, they take turns swooping into the station. Each species of cleaner fish nibbles a different section to reduce competition. This mutually advantageous relationship means the fish are provided with a steady supply of food, and the manta's skin is free of dead cells and parasites. These sessions can last up to 3 hours, and once thoroughly scrubbed, the manta rays leave the salon and head back to the deep. Just like the whale sharks, these graceful giants pose no threat to other fish. They are also filter feeders, and when plankton blooms, everyone joins in the feeding frenzy. Filtering large volumes of water, they funnel the miniature prey into their gaping mouths. A single manta can sieve up to 17 kilos of plankton a day. Barrel rolling is a quick way of returning to a particularly dense patch of food. These flowing movements have meant people often describe the manta rays as the ballerinas of the ocean. But there is another, less obvious giant living here in the ocean. It can stretch over 90 kilometers and has been growing for over 50 million years. It's the coral reef itself, a living seascape made up of millions of tiny plant-like animals known as coral polyps. Together, they act as a single supersized organism. Secreting calcium carbonate from their base, the polyps form complex and striking sculptures. Colonies grow over thousands of years, eventually joining other communities to become a reef. Zanzibar hosts some of the most spectacular coral gardens in the world. And over 90% of East Africa's hard coral species are found here. These rainforests of the sea are the heart of the entire underwater ecosystem. Anemones, sea cucumbers, eels, and an array of tropical fish make this underwater Eden their permanent home. So this coral reef is the most important giant in Zanzibar's ocean. Moving out of the ocean onto Zanzibar's beaches, there is far more here than meets the eye. At low tide, shore-dwelling ghost crabs appear and have an important job to do. They are excavators of the pristine sandy beaches as they maintain their burrows. This is tough work though, and burns huge amounts of energy. So having food aplenty is essential. Algae and fungus scraped off filtered sand particles forms the bulk of this crab's diet. Feeding is a production line process, leaving sand pellets dotted along the shore. But the crab is not alone. It's a black heron, and it's on the lookout for a meal. The crabs take cover, hoping not to be spotted. And luckily, this time, the heron had bigger fish to fry. There is also another crab species living here, and mealtimes prove a little more challenging. Adult male fiddler crabs have an oversized claw. It's the violin-playing motion while eating that has given rise to their name. Female fiddler crabs are better balanced than males and cause quite a stir whenever they venture among the boys. This frantic waving is all about catching the eye of a passing lady. The faster the rhythm, the better the chance of being noticed and outdoing the competition. Females prefer fast wavers, and this male has struck the right chord as his conquest enters the burrow. Other females prefer the safety of mating outside their own burrow, so they can retreat at any point. For male fiddler crabs, size also matters when it comes to protecting territory. Shows of strength like these deter neighbors from cramping their style and also keep potential squatters at bay. As the new tide approaches, it's a scramble to retreat to safety underground. The stranded risk being swept out to sea and drowning with the rising water. With such high stakes, those who've wandered too far from their burrows muscle in on someone else's hard-earned home. It's a constant fight for survival for these coastal residents. The turning of Zanzibar's tides governs the lives of many creatures, but certain life forms have set up permanent home on dry land. Just off Unguja Island lies Chumba, just 1 kilometer long and 300 meters wide. It's here a fossilized coral has formed in the region's bedrock. Due to this, Chumba's forest is home to a highly specialized plant community that survives without any groundwater. Giant roots spread out in all directions, and smaller species cling to any surface they can. Many plants and trees get their water from the humid air. Others, like the baobab, stockpile reserves during the rainy season. To store this much water, the baobab trunk can be up to 10 meters wide, and they can grow up to 20 meters tall. These trees can live for hundreds of years, with some of the oldest being over 1,000 years old. They are the green giants within Zanzibar's unique forests. 40 kilometers north of Unguja is where the other dominant island of Zanzibar lies. Pemba is unlike the other islands of the archipelago, a true landmass with rolling hills and forested valleys, earning it the name the Green Island. Here, a unique canopy resident lives. the Pemba flying fox. A giant of its kind, it is renowned for its very sweet tooth. Flying foxes are the largest species of bat in the world, with a wingspan in excess of 1.5 meters. Most other bats use acute hearing to capture insects, but flying foxes are fruit bats and rely on their large eyes to track down their meals. Blossom, nectar, and ripe fruit make up the majority of their diet. These bats are highly social, so they live in large groups with up to 850 individuals living in one roost. But with your neighbors in such close proximity, small conflicts can arise. When night falls, the reason for these large groups starts to become clear. The flying foxes head out on their nightly exodus to find food. Splitting up amongst the forest means they can cover a large area. They use their loud calls to communicate about specific feeding sites, working as a team to make sure everyone gets their fair share of food. These flying foxes are incredibly important for the whole forest ecosystem, as they are the pollinators and seed dispersers of many plants. 20 years ago, these giant bats were virtually hunted to extinction by local islanders. But today, the species is protected. The Pemba people realize the important role the bats play in keeping the region's forests alive. While the bats are helping out here, there is another mammal that causes nothing but trouble. Vervets are medium-sized monkeys that hang around in troops of up to 50. Vervet youngsters are nursed for approximately 4 months. The school of hard knocks starts early in Vervet society. And this troop are up to no good. Fruits, berries, and leaves make up a large part of this monkey's diet. But one of their favorite foods is cassava. This starchy, tuberous root is full of carbohydrates and is one of the most drought-tolerant crops on the planet. After rice, cassava is also the second most important food crop throughout Zanzibar. Because of this, protecting their precious fields is a constant battle for Pemba's farmers. The vervets realize they've been spotted and scramble back to the trees. The farmers have managed to scare them off this time, but these mischievous monkeys will soon be back for more. It's not just the vervets and the flying foxes that make Pemba special. One of the rarest primates in the world has also made this island its home. Isolated from mainland Africa over 10,000 years ago, the Zanzibar red colibus monkey has evolved to become a distinct species. Its color and some of its habits are unique. Feeding is a group activity and begins in the early morning. Zanzibar's red colibus are fond of unripe berries and seeds. Unlike many primates, their stomachs can't digest the sugars contained in these more mature fruits. So for their main source of food, the red colibus are leaf eaters. Leaves are highly nutritious, but most animals are unable to digest the cellulose that makes up plant cell walls. Colibus monkeys have a solution. They have a four-chambered stomach, like many hoofed animals, which enables bacteria to ferment and break down what they eat. After an hour or so of munching, it's time to rest. Their peculiar digestive system makes them one of the laziest monkeys on Earth, resting for 70% of the time they're awake. Like most other monkeys, young red colibus continue suckling for around 18 months. Energy from their mother's milk is quickly converted. So this means not all members of this troop are sleepy. While the grown-ups take a nap, the youngsters decide it's time to play. For an adult red colibus monkey, grabbing a peaceful 40 winks is easier said than done. Alongside the annoying antics of the troop's teenagers, the process of digesting large volumes of leaves creates a rather unfortunate byproduct. While the Pemba canopy has a rather unique smell. Back on Nguja Island, the colibus in Chumba Forest have discovered a genius way to clear the air by putting a stop to their ongoing flatulence problem. Instead of sitting around feeling bloated after a belly full of leaves and fruit, these monkeys are on a mission. They single out their target. And wait for the right moment to strike. Without warning, they launch their attack. It's a constant battle for the island's charcoal sellers. Here in Jazani, red colibus have long worked out that eating charcoal aids the digestion of exotic leaves. This learned behavior is passed down from mother to young through imitation. But how they first developed this craving for charcoal remains a mystery. What is known is it is completely unique to Nguja's troops and seen nowhere else on Earth. It's not just the colibus monkeys that have made Jazani their home. A vast array of unique and colourful species bring this forest to life. And there is also another species of primate that enjoys the canopy life. The Psych's monkey. And these guys will eat just about anything. Leaves, ripe fruits and flowers, insects, and even small vertebrates. However, not every prey makes an easy picking. And this monkey soon realizes it's bitten off more than it can chew. These are Zanzibar's giant carpenter ants. Measuring almost 2 centimeters in length, their giant mandibles mean they also have a giant bite. When threatened, they will put up a strong defensive fight that can scare off even the largest predators. But the giant carpenter ants aren't the only animals here on Zanzibar that are the giant mini-beasts of their kind. The island is famous for them. This is the giant millipede. At up to 30 centimeters in length, they are the largest species found anywhere on Earth. With hundreds of legs, they move through the forest in a wave-like motion. These legs are not used for speed, but for power, to dig through the soil, debris, and the bark of any decaying tree. And as night falls, these millipedes are heading out on their nightly exodus to find food. But you don't need hundreds of legs to be a giant here. Measuring over 15 centimeters in length, the giant African snail is the largest in the world. Its body is all muscle, so strong it uses contractions to move this giant through the forest. The 2 large tentacles on the snail's head contain their eyes, but this isn't the snail's most important sense. Unlike us, they don't have a nose. It's their lower tentacles that they use to track down food. Containing olfactory neurons at the tips, these are their smell sensors. Their shell is their main defense from predators. So important, it can even repair any minor crack. It is able to do this by consuming calcium, which it finds in bones from carcasses, sand, and small stones. It then secretes it into the shell, keeping it in pristine condition. They may look harmless, but as one of the most invasive species on Earth, this is one giant not to be messed with. And it's certainly too much of a mouthful for this flap-necked chameleon. He's on the hunt for something a lot smaller. He's hungry for crickets. Moving among the branches is where this chameleon is most happy and most likely to find its prey. But then he spots a rival chameleon. Immediately, his skin turns darker and the black spots turn bright yellow. He begins to rock from side to side in an attempt to intimidate the trespassing male and stop him from stealing his cricket prey. Like all chameleons, their eyes are on cone-shaped turrets that can move independently. This enables them to look in two directions at once, so no cricket can escape their deadly stare. We will win. But these rivals seem to have locked onto the same cricket. It's a race to the finish. As once spotted, prey is caught by a tongue that can accelerate 5 times faster than a fighter jet. Fortunately for both males, at this time of year, crickets are abundant, so there is plenty of food to go round. And once the prey is snared in its sticky mucus tongue and locked in the vacuum created by muscles in the tip, there is no escape. Back on the coast, there's a reptile that is making the most of one of the most abundant food sources surrounding the island: seaweed. The green turtles love floating in the lagoons, feasting on any that comes too close. Measuring over 1 meter long, they tip the scales at around 200 kilos. When young, these amphibious reptiles feed on jellyfish, shrimps, and small fish. But during adulthood, these green giants become strictly vegetarian. Apart from when nesting, green turtles rarely come ashore. But it is inland where a reptile of giant proportions lives. It is found on Canggu Island, less than 5 kilometers away from the mainland. It weighs over 250 kilos and has a shell nearly 1.5 meters long. It's the Aldabra tortoise, one of the largest in the world. It's one of the longest lived animals too. Some live for over 200 years. Giant tortoises feed mainly on grasses and woody plants. Whenever these aren't within reach, dried leaves will do. This crunchy meal contains very little moisture. So Aldabra tortoises draw on a special method to rehydrate their enormous frames. The fat stored beneath their shells can be converted to water. Burning these reserves releases fluid during the hottest parts of the day and prevents them from becoming dehydrated. Canggu's giant tortoises can survive without water for long periods. But for creatures less fortunate, another location provides a permanent wetland. On Zanzibar's Unguja Island, the shoreline boundary isn't clearly defined. Small estuaries venture into forests, forming a unique relationship between land and sea. Mangroves thrive in saline coastal habitats. A complex system of aerial roots enables the intake of oxygen and traps organic debris that would otherwise be washed out to sea. These tidal swamps provide a breeding ground and a nursery for several species of fish and invertebrates. Many of these will head out into the surrounding reefs and seabeds when adults. Heading inland from this mangrove is the largest reserve of mature woodland on the entire archipelago. Living fossils, like this Psychicad tree, have remained almost unchanged for millions of years, with a lineage stretching back beyond the dinosaurs. Similar to pine trees, this species doesn't produce any flowers. However, unlike their relatives, each Psychicad tree produces only male or female seed cones. These colorful structures can be up to 1 meter long and weigh over 30 kilos. It's no wonder even herb-loving dinosaurs became such giants too. As night falls over the islands, some of Zanzibar's most unique animals appear from the shadows. This is no ordinary rat. At almost 1 meter in length, it's one of the largest in the world. Known as the giant pouched rat, it's able to store vast amounts of food in its expandable cheeks. Its eyesight is very poor, but is compensated for by an excellent sense of smell and hearing. Its giant nose is so sensitive, scientists have begun using this species to sniff out landmines and detect human diseases, such as tuberculosis. But right now, this rat is using its nose to track down insects, termites, fruit, and vegetable matter, all of its favorite kinds of food. But there is another giant living in Zanzibar that is like no other. It's the world's biggest creepy crawly, and it too reveals itself in the cover of darkness. Weighing over 4 kilos and with a leg span of up to 1 meter, the coconut crab is the world's largest land-living invertebrate. It's actually a giant hermit crab, and while it's young, it carries another creature's abandoned shell on its back for protection. But when fully grown, it develops a tough outer skin. It stays hidden during the day to reduce water loss from heat. But at night, this solitary stalker heads off in search of its favorite food: coconuts. Unlike most of its relatives, the coconut crab can't survive in water. It would drown if submerged. Its gills have evolved to work like lungs, although they need to be kept moist in order to function. Its antennae have also evolved, enabling it to pick up airborne scents the same way insects do. And this forest forager is onto something. Also known as the robber crab or palm thief, coconut crabs are great climbers. They can't cut down coconuts by themselves. However, fallen fruits are quickly seized upon. Although the surrounding sea is a no-go zone for these land-based giants, it wasn't always that way. They started life in the water. A female coconut crab makes her way to the shore. She's been carrying a batch of eggs glued to her abdomen for 2 months. At high tide, they're ready to be released. On contact with water, the eggs hatch immediately. The juvenile giants will eventually make their way ashore. They live a hermit's life before becoming permanent dry land residents, completing the cycle of Zanzibar's greatest giant. Zanzibar is an island paradise. And its isolation has seen Zanzibar's creatures evolve and grow. Many mainland species are forced to remain small to escape predators. But island animals have an easier life. Abundant food, less competition, and fewer predators have had a positive effect. They've allowed Zanzibar and its many islands to become a land of giants. The Caribbean, famous for endless blue skies and sunshine, and beaches of pristine white sand, fringed with palm trees and lapped by turquoise seas. But these islands also have a wild side, far less familiar. They have been forged by volcanic forces, and they sit in the firing line of some of the most violent storms on Earth. The wildlife that calls this place home has had to adapt to island life, becoming either specialists or opportunists. Some are seafarers, while others started off as castaways. From small iridescent birds to wandering ocean leviathans, the wildlife of these islands is both surprising and spectacular. The Caribbean is the jewel of the tropics. The Caribbean is an archipelago of over 7,000 islands and coral reefs, lying within the crystal-clear waters of the Caribbean Sea. From just a few meters wide to hundreds of kilometers across, every island is different, and each has its own unique wildlife. From the tropical forests covering the highest peaks, to the reefs hidden beneath the waves, the Caribbean hides a treasure trove of life. Just off the coast of South America lies the island of Trinidad, the southernmost island in the Caribbean. Legends of hidden treasure have long drawn travelers to these islands. But some of nature's greatest seafarers have been visiting these shores for far longer. At night, Trinidad's beaches are visited by creatures that have been around for over 100 million years. Leatherback turtles have come here to nest. Each year, females cross the open ocean to return to these waters from thousands of kilometers away. They make the grueling journey so they can lay their eggs on the very beaches where their own lives began. Leatherbacks are the largest sea turtles on Earth, growing up to 2 meters long and weighing up to 900 kilos. Her massive flippers help her to dig a hole in the sand. When the nest is deep enough, she lays up to 100 eggs. The temperature of the nest will determine if the babies will be male or female. Higher than around 30 degrees Celsius, and females will emerge. Cooler nests will produce males. Among the normal eggs, she also lays smaller ones, which are yolkless and sterile. These will collapse over time, giving the babies more space and air when it's time to hatch. When she has finished, she fills the nest using her back flippers, creating a large disturbed area, which confuses potential predators. The whole process can take up to 3 hours. It takes a lot out of her. But she's not the only one here. Trinidad has one of the largest populations of nesting leatherbacks in the Atlantic. At the peak of the season, space is in short supply. Up to 500 turtles can visit a beach in just one night. Turtles coming in to nest collide with those ready to return to the ocean. The scrum for a spot results in turtles digging up each other's eggs. Some start laying so late that by the time their nest is finished, it is daylight again. Leatherbacks only come to nest every few years, but in one season, a female can lay up to 10 different sets of eggs. With the dawn, opportunistic scavengers are on the lookout. Trinidad's black vultures know there are rich pickings to be had. The eggs that have been left exposed are packed with protein, and the birds take full advantage. There are plenty to go around, but squabbles still break out. By clearing up these eggs, the vultures actually help to keep the beach healthy. If left, they would rot in the sand, posing a risk to embryos growing inside their nests. Buried eggs, which remain undisturbed, take 65 days to fully develop before they're ready to hatch. The baby turtles emerge in perfect synchrony. Safety in numbers is their best chance of making it to the sea. But only 6% will survive their first year. instinct spurs the vulnerable hatchlings on. Even at this young age, the leatherback can propel itself through the water with an efficiency no other turtle can match. These turtles will remain in the mysterious depths of the open ocean for most of their lives. They will increase in weight by up to 20,000 times. And only the adult females will ever return to the Caribbean's beaches. North from Trinidad is a chain of islands which sit between two tectonic plates. This was once a region of intense seismic activity, which gave birth to the island of Dominica. Being just 26 million years old, it's the youngest island. Less than 50 kilometers long, with volcanic peaks towering 1,500 meters above the sea, it's a vertical island. Despite its small size, Dominica has 9 of the 17 active volcanoes in the Caribbean, the highest concentration found anywhere in the world. All the ash spewed out by these volcanoes has made the soils extremely fertile. Just about anything will take root. Plants have flourished, and their flowers provide food for some of the Caribbean's fastest movers. Hummingbirds. Having no sense of smell, they find the sugar they need by visiting the forest flowers, which advertise their nectar by being colorful. These tiny dynamos have the fastest metabolism of any vertebrate on Earth. Their hearts can beat over 1,000 times a minute, and wings can flap up to 200 times a second when they dive. To fuel their flying, they must eat every 10 minutes, and up to 3 times their body weight every day. At just 9 centimeters tall, the Antillean crested hummingbird is one of the Caribbean's smallest. Only the males bear the brilliant green crest that gives these birds their name. Females are more drab, which helps camouflage them whilst raising their young. Chicks need extra protein, so they're fed a regurgitated mixture of nectar and insects. On this rich diet, they grow quickly. The nest is made using spider silk, making it elastic, so it stretches as the chicks develop. Just 2 weeks after hatching, they're almost ready to fledge. The Caribbean's volcanic past plays another crucial role. The mountains that have been pushed up are so tall, they create their own weather. As moist air from the sea rises, it forms clouds. As the clouds cool, they release rain on the forests below. Rainforests are by far the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. And the rainforests of Puerto Rico is no exception. Heading northwest from Dominica, the island of Puerto Rico sits in the middle of the Caribbean. In the east of the island, the Luquillo Mountains stand over 1,000 meters high and are home to the misty, lush forest of Aldabra. This rainforest is a haven for reptiles. A giant anole basks on a tree trunk. These large lizards have long jaws, giving them a powerful bite. And like a chameleon, they have eyes which move independently. The serrated ridge of scales on its tail, reminiscent of a dinosaur. Like geckos, they have adhesive pads under their toes, which enable them to cling to vertical surfaces. The lizard cuckoo is their main predator. It will make a meal of any lizard it can catch. Time to be less conspicuous. It's not clear if the cuckoo has spotted it, but the anole isn't taking any chances. He'll be harder to catch further up. The cuckoo, however, is actually concentrated on catching caterpillars. 75% of its diet is lizards, but it supplements it with spiders, insects, and grubs. Night in Aldabra comes alive with the sound of the real winners in this rainforest. The amphibians. And in particular, the cocky frog. 13 different species live here. It has rained, and male frogs are calling everywhere. 2 species make the classic cocky call, after which they're named. This call is for attracting females and warning off males. Males hear the ko, and females hear the ki. Females, which are larger than the males, sit listening for a call they like the sound of. Once a female is interested, she moves closer. If on closer inspection, she still likes what she sees, she gets close enough to touch him. Contact is his cue. He starts to lead her to the nest site he chose earlier. Every time she touches him, he leads her closer. Out of sight, they enter an embrace and mate. Dead palm leaves make ideal nests. This female is already laying her eggs. The male is inside, ready to take on his important role. Her job complete, the female leaves. And the male is left to look after the clutch. He will look after the eggs until they hatch. A bromeliad hides an older nest. The father loyally broods the eggs, which have started to develop. A beating heart is visible. Embryos are beginning to move. And because cockies hatch as froglets, limb buds are appearing. The male guards the eggs and prevents them from drying out, but danger is never far away. This predatory snail will eat cocky eggs. The male on the fresh clutch can sense the danger. And does something unimaginable. He begins to eat his own eggs. When such a young clutch is threatened, a male will often choose to reabsorb the energy and start again. Eggs that do survive take 28 days to develop. When the time is right, tiny fully formed frogs enter the world. They disperse from the nest after 5 days. But these juveniles are not yet safe. Froglet-eating scorpions lurk in the shadows. The rains which fall give the islands a plentiful supply of fresh water, vital for them to sustain life. All this water runs down towards the ocean, leaching nutrients from the soils and feeding them into the Caribbean Sea. Even here, there are signs of volcanic activity. Submerged fumaroles emit gases from cracks in the seafloor. These warm, nutrient-rich waters are ideal for one of the Caribbean's richest treasures. It's coral reefs. They are home to over 800 different species of fish and many more crustaceans and invertebrates. They might look like underwater gardens, but the reefs are actually huge colonies of millions of tiny animals called polyps. They create the intricate network of ever-growing corals. They seem inanimate, but corals can grow up to 15 centimeters in a year. Many of the fish that find shelter and protection in these reefs are found nowhere else on Earth. Not just fish and marine reptiles rely on these waters. Large marine mammals also depend on it. The Silver Bank is a shallow area of sea above a huge limestone shelf north of the Dominican Republic. A Spanish galleon sank here in the 17th century, and a hoard of silver treasure was lost to the sea, which is how the Silver Bank got its name. Nowadays, these waters shelter different treasures. Female humpback whales come here to give birth. These calm waters are the perfect place for newborns to learn in safety. The bond between the humpback mother and calf is extremely strong. They are inseparable as the mother teaches her infant all the skills it will need. Every year, between December and April, around 3,000 humpbacks pass through the Silver Bank. When summer arrives, the whales move on to their feeding grounds thousands of kilometers away in the North Atlantic. The Caribbean's role as a nursery is vital for the survival of these great ocean voyagers. Nearly all of the Caribbean islands have coral reefs off their shores, but Trinidad has almost none at all. It lies so close to South America that silt from the Orinoco River makes the surrounding sea too muddy for coral to grow. However, coral reefs were once present here. Mount Tamana, in the highlands of the island, was one such reef. Thousands of years ago, tectonic forces pushed it almost 300 meters above sea level. Now the ancient reef forms a massive network of limestone caves. These caves play host to 1 million bats. Trinidad is home to almost 70 species of bat, 11 of which roost in the Tamana caves. Spear-nosed and funnel-eared bats roost alongside leaf-nosed, mouse-eared, and tailless bats. The floor of the cave is piled high with bat droppings, which in itself supports a biodiversity all of its own. Communities that develop on guano can be very distinct. The copious amounts of droppings provide cockroaches with an endless supply of food, while the roaches are a source of food for other animals, like the whip scorpion. In the weak sunlight that reaches the cave's entrance, seeds defecated by the bats are able to sprout. But the lack of light makes the seedlings fragile, the stems growing long in a bid for the sun. Above ground, the forest is rich in flowers, fruits, and insects. And each evening, as the sun begins to fade, the bats fly out to feed. Some of them travel from deep within the labyrinth of tunnels and chambers, 300 meters below ground. With so many bats leaving through one small entrance, the exodus can take several hours. This mass emergence happens at similar caves all over the Caribbean. But at a cave in Puerto Rico, the bats don't get it so easy. As night falls, 300,000 individuals begin heading out to feed. But this also means running the gauntlet. As they swarm out, they head straight up into the trees, taking them right past some very crafty hunters. Puerto Rican boas have gathered at the entrance. They have developed a taste for bat. As their prey increases, the boas slither into their chosen positions. As many as 21 snakes have been seen at this cave in one night. Using roots, vines and rocks to grip onto, over half their body hangs precariously in space. This may appear foolhardy, as they repeatedly get hit by flying bats. But this seemingly strange tactic has evolved for a reason. When a bat hits the snake's nose, it triggers a lightning reaction. With a deadly strike, the boa grabs the bat, throws 2 coils around it, and starts to constrict. As bat emergence peaks, the snakes catch one after another. This food source is not the easiest to consume, however. It takes skill and time to manipulate the small winged mammals enough to be able to swallow them. Even so, some unfortunate bats are still alive as they go down. Boas can usually only manage 2 or 3 a night. When the feasting is over, the snakes retreat, stomachs full, to digest their meal. During the months of December to May, life on these islands is tranquil. But when summer arrives, the Caribbean can become an altogether darker place. From June to November, these islands are often hit by ferocious hurricanes. Most begin life as tropical storms off the coast of West Africa. They tear across the Atlantic, sucking up heat from the warm water and growing in intensity. The islands of the Caribbean are the first landmasses these hurricanes come to. A storm becomes a hurricane when the wind exceeds 120 kilometers per hour, making it a Category 1. Category 5 hurricanes top 250. Even with the best forecasting, no one can predict when a hurricane may strike. The waves created can reach 20 meters high as they smash into coastlines. But they can also have a strangely positive impact on some islands. Off the east coast of Puerto Rico lies the island of Vieques. Only 34 kilometers long and 6 kilometers wide, the sea is constantly shaping this island. It sits right at the point where the blue of the Caribbean meets the murkier waters of the Atlantic. Much of the island is protected, making it a sanctuary for wildlife. Brown pelicans dine out on the plentiful fish in its waters. Ghost crabs make their homes in its fine, soft sand. But it is one of the islands most at risk from hurricanes. And they bring mountains of seaweed to its beaches. Free-floating sargassum reproduces in the open ocean and forms the 5 million square kilometers of the Sargasso Sea in the middle of the Atlantic. But storms and unusual currents sometimes push tons of this algae onto the shores of the Caribbean. Huge numbers of floating clumps make land. Some piles can reach over a meter and stretch for hundreds more. Although a nuisance to beachgoers, rotting sargassum does bring benefits. It's a perfect breeding ground for insects. And these insects help sustain the bird life. Caribbean martins make their nest in the island's limestone rocks. Feeding the growing chicks inside is a full-time job. Parents take turns in going out to forage. As well as removing fecal sacs to ensure the chicks stay clean. Ground nesting Wilson's plover uses dried out sargassum to cushion her eggs. Even with the shade she provides, the midday heat can be too much for the developing embryos and for her. Regular dips in the surf to soak her chest feathers help cool the eggs and bring her temperature down. But the seaweed benefits don't stop there. Surprisingly, the natural barriers created by the piles of sargassum also help to reduce erosion from the sea. This protection is temporary. But many Caribbean islands have their own constant living defense against erosion. mangrove forest. With 1 foot on land and 1 in the sea, the mangrove forms a natural breakwater. The tangle of roots reduces the power of big waves and storm surges. Coroni Swamp lies on Trinidad's west coast. Twice a day at high tide, the mangrove is inundated with seawater. Few plants can cope with such salty conditions, and many Caribbean mangroves only have 3 or 4 species of tree. Yet the trees create a habitat that shelters a rich and unique ecosystem. It's a nursery for many young fish. The constant rise and fall of the tides presents opportunities and challenges to all that live here. At low tide, the swamp's thick mud is a rich source of food for the population of fiddler crabs. Each teaspoon of mud contains around 10 million bacteria. The male crabs use their one small claw to feed on this microscopic food. While their big claw, which resembles a violin, is reserved for waving. This display is designed to attract a female and defend their burrows from rivals. Females choose a mate on claw size and quality of display. Having an escape hole is vital. There are predators around. When the tide is out, scarlet ibis flock to the shallows to feed. They probe the mud in search of crustaceans, like fiddler crabs and shrimp, amphibians and insects. Their diet of red shellfish, rich in carotene, gives them their vivid color. Young birds are born gray, and it takes about 2 years before they've eaten enough carotene to turn red. Dipping the crabs in the water before swallowing them helps clean off the mud. Every evening at dusk, the ibis return in large flocks to tiny islands within the mangrove. They gather in their hundreds to roost for the night. Other mangroves of the Caribbean are the setting for an altogether different spectacle. A fisherman sets off to do some night fishing. As he rows into the darkness, there is nothing extraordinary about this lagoon. But when it reaches a certain depth, the water begins to light up. A phenomenon known as bioluminescence. The fisherman's oars leave trails of neon blue. Disturbing the water prompts a chemical reaction in microscopic organisms called dinoflagellates. Feeling threatened, They glow in defense. Conditions here are perfect. The bay is shallow, warm, and sheltered, and decaying mangrove produces the bacteria they feed on. Only 1/20th of a millimeter long, billions of them are concentrated in this lagoon. As the fisherman casts his net, the dinoflagellates let off a sort of burglar alarm. By emitting light, they are trying to attract larger predators to what is attacking them. Trinidad separated from South America around 12,000 years ago, when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age. As a result, some mainland mammals got stranded there, and they are not found anywhere else in the Caribbean. The island is home to a troop of white-throated capuchins. This small monkey is known for being a particularly resourceful primate. But life on a Caribbean island requires its own special strategies. Trinidad's capuchins have found that the island's coca-ripe palm trees are a rich source of food. Dead leaves and branches harbor all kinds of insects and grubs. Having a prehensile tail means that both hands can be kept free for eating. Although they also eat nectar, fruit is by far their favorite food. South American mammals are not the only alien invaders in the Caribbean. And for getting to islands further away than Trinidad, the Caribbean Sea has proved a big barrier. The iconic coconut palm is a relative newcomer to the Caribbean. Originally from Southeast Asia, they only arrived here around 5 centuries ago. These palms are perfectly designed to deal with the region's tropical storms. Up to 4,000 roots spread out under the sand, giving the palm a firm anchor to withstand the frequent hurricanes. And it's hurricanes that have also assisted their travels. Strong winds help dislodge their seeds, and these are cast adrift on the ocean's currents. The coconuts are especially buoyant and can float for months without sinking. When they eventually wash ashore, a new island is colonized. In just 500 years, coconuts have spread to virtually every island in the Caribbean. But some animals have also succeeded in becoming accomplished island hoppers, and with quite ingenious methods. Strong winds also destroy trees, so after a storm, there's a lot of vegetation drifting in the sea. These makeshift rafts are one way in which species like the lesser Antillean iguana have been able to spread across the Caribbean. The iguana has colonized many of the eastern Caribbean islands, and 10,000 individuals live on the island of Dominica. Iguanas follow a strict hierarchy, which is color-coded. Dominant males turn dark gray, while females and juveniles are shades of green. April brings the mating season, and females dig a metre-long burrow in which to lay their eggs. Each dominant male defends a small territory with up to 7 nesting females. Rivals are warned off with a display of head bobbing. The female lays up to 18 eggs, and over the next 3 months, they will be incubated purely by solar power. By June, emerald green babies are ready to break out and scramble their way into the sunlight. These iguanas are a Caribbean success story. They've turned the devastation wreaked by hurricanes to their advantage, using it to emigrate to islands that would otherwise be completely out of reach. The islands of the Caribbean have been shaped by millions of years of volcanic activity. Lying in the heart of Hurricane Alley, they also withstand some of the most ferocious storms on Earth. Yet these islands are home to an extraordinary variety of wildlife. From clever opportunists to highly evolved specialists, the Caribbean protects those that live life in the fast lane and attracts seafarers from far and wide. Though the pirates of legend are long gone, the wild treasures of the Caribbean remain. Vancouver Island is a haven for one of the world's most diverse ecosystems. Glacial peaks, ancient rainforests, nutrient-rich oceans, and a complex network of rivers and creeks support a wilderness like no other. But each year, all of its inhabitants face a period of flux. As summer draws to a close and winter fast approaches, the species that reside here become focused on one thing: survival. Life on Vancouver Island must adapt and prepare to face the seasons of change. Vancouver Island is located in the Pacific Northwest. A narrow channel is all that separates it from the west coast of Canada. At 460 kilometers in length, it covers an area of 32,000 square kilometers. Spring and summer here is a time of plenty. Rivers run freely and the forests are abundant with food. But with a change in season comes a change in fortunes. The beginning of fall marks a shift for all of the island's animal inhabitants. As winter draws ever closer, the animals both on land and at sea are forced to adapt or prepare to leave. Surviving the season ahead takes ingenuity, patience, and luck. Summer is drawing to a close on Vancouver Island shores, and the temperature is beginning to drop. For one of the island's largest mammals, the waiting game has begun. Over 7,000 black bears roam the island. They need to stock up for the forthcoming winter. But supplies of berries, their summer sustenance, are running low. These opportunistic feeders must seek out other food to see them through the thin times. The seasons are changing, and repercussions like these aren't only felt on land. In summer, the Pacific waters encircling the island are a vast protein shake. But now that winter is approaching, the plankton bloom is beginning to fade. And small shoals of Pacific herring gather to feed on what remains. These fish make an energy-rich meal for diving birds like these murres. When the herring are startled, their instinctual response is to group tight, forming a protective sphere known as a bait ball. It's a matter of safety in numbers, but those on the outside of the ball might not be so lucky. This predator is known to have a taste for fish. Killer whales weigh up to 9,000 kilograms and roam the island's coast in pods of up to 30 individuals. Also known as orcas after the Roman god of the underworld, they have a powerful jaw, armed with 20 pairs of 8-centimeter long, interlocking teeth. Hunting in packs, they are often referred to as the wolves of the sea. While the resident pods of orca eat only fish, this visiting group is on the lookout for much larger prey. Steller sea lions are named after German naturalist Georg Wilhelm Steller, who first described them in 1742. The largest of all sea lions. They can reach over 3 meters in length and weigh more than a ton. Unlike most true or crawling seals, sea lions have visible ears and are often much more vocal than their counterparts. They are also able to walk on all 4 flippers. Sounding like a group of players in a locker room, these bachelors constantly jostle for a better position on coastal rocks. Soon, hunger kicks in, and it's time for a spot of fishing. Sea lions may seem cumbersome on land, but underwater, they become graceful and sleek. Seabirds on the surface signal a potential meal. Hitting speeds of over 30 kilometers an hour, they can make tight turns to catch their prey. But a bait ball like this presents an easy snag. They must be quick. The surface is a dangerous place to linger. There are killers in the deep. Ambushing from below, the orca debilitates its prey, avoiding the sea lion's powerful jaws and gaining a calorie-rich meal, enough to sustain an orca for 2 to 3 days. On land, the search for winter provisions continues. Vancouver Island has the densest population of black bears in the world. They're darker than mainland bears and slightly larger, weighing up to 275 kilograms. Although mostly vegetarian, they have adapted to take advantage of the nutrient-rich intertidal zone. At low tide, this bear has made its way down to the shore in search of one thing: shore crabs. With a sense of smell 7 times sharper than that of a bloodhound, the bear catches the scent and uses long curved claws to pull up rocks and boulders, revealing a tasty treat underneath. But a few tiny shore crabs won't be enough to see this bear through the long hibernation ahead. It will need a far richer food source if it's to survive. Each month, the size of the changing tide fluctuates. The biggest tides of all happen on the new moon, when the moon and the sun are on the same side of the earth. These are called spring tides, referring to the springing forth of the water. During these extreme tidal lows, vast tracts of shoreline are exposed. The plants and animals that live here must survive until the next high tide. Just beyond these shores, the submerged rock reefs around Vancouver Island are a colourful, cold water paradise, home to an abundance of marine creatures. Where tidal currents are strong, anchored communities of filter-feeding animals thrive, depending on the currents to fulfill all their needs. Feather duster worms wave plumes of sticky tentacles, catching food particles as they pass by. Barnacles sweep for plankton with their fan-like feet. Due to the nutrient-rich Pacific waters, starfish here grow to enormous sizes. Some, like the sunflower star, can reach up to 1 meter across. These giants can have up to 20 soft, flexible arms, covered in 15,000 tubed feet. They are surprisingly fast for starfish. Voracious hunters, they seek out clams and sea snails at a speed of up to 5 meters a minute. Down here, camouflage can be key to survival. A heart crab's bristled legs help it blend into the rocks. Sea urchins rely on their threatening spines to ward off predators. Soon the water temperature will drop to just 5 degrees Celsius, and the winter currents will create a downwelling, pushing high nutrient waters to greater depths. The marine life of Vancouver Island will need to work harder to find food. While some prepare to sit the winter out, others are about to embark on a mammoth journey. Humpback whales are the 5th largest animal on the planet. They can reach 19 meters in length and weigh up to 36 tons. Their enormous frames are fueled by small schooling fish and swarms of tiny shrimp-like crustaceans known as krill. Consuming up to a ton each day, these toothless whales use a mass of bristles called baleen plates to filter food from the water. The large shoals of herring they've been feeding on all summer are starting to dwindle. It's time to head south. These humpback whales spend each winter in the warmer waters off Mexico and Hawaii, around 4,000 kilometers away. This is where they'll breed before returning to Vancouver Island's food-rich waters with their calves in tow. On the shores of the Makina Marine Provincial Park, boiling sulfur-saturated water pools mix with ocean swells. This part of the coast lies on a fault line in the Earth's crust, an enormous crack traveling deep beneath the surface. This water has traveled over 5 kilometers towards the center of the Earth and back. A journey that's taken hundreds of years. As it slowly travels through the rock layers, the water is geothermally heated to over 100 degrees Celsius before intense pressure forces it back to the surface, finally emerging into the light at around 50 degrees Celsius. It cascades along a series of rock pools before entering the sea. While hot water bubbles at sea level, 2,000 meters above, ice can be found year-round on top of many of the highest peaks. Vancouver Island's formation came about through a combination of volcanism and tectonic plates colliding, but glaciation also played a major part. Around 10,000 years ago, the Comox Valley was buried beneath a sheet of ice more than a kilometer thick. As it moved, the ice sheets cut major features in the landscape, gouging out the valley below. The climate eventually warmed, and the ice sheets melted, most of it at least. Still looming over the valley is the Comox Glacier, a reminder of the region's frozen past. On the steep slopes below, one creature is making the most of the autumn sun before it beds down for winter. Vancouver Island marmots are the rarest in the world. At one point, their numbers dropped to just 25. While the exact reason for this decline is unknown, it is thought changes to the landscape may have led to an imbalance in predator and prey numbers. Thanks to a recovery plan of captive breeding and release, their numbers are slowly increasing. One of the largest members of the squirrel family, marmots are about the size of a domestic cat and weigh close to 5 kilograms. Family colonies are made up of around 6 members. There's one thing marmots do a lot, and that's eat. Living above 1,000 meters, they must double their mass during the spring and summer months, when food is readily available. In the next few days, the marmots will hibernate, spending 7 to 8 months underground. Their heartbeats will slow to just 3 or 4 beats per minute. By the time they re-emerge in April, they'll have lost 1/3 of their body weight. Tail flipping is a visual way of keeping in contact with the rest of the group while on the move. A nose-to-nose touch is a form of greeting. Smelling a visitor's cheek helps identify who's who among the neighbours. Once they've had their fill, sunbathing on boulders helps to regulate the marmot's body temperature. These elevated vantage points are ideal spots from which to watch for predators. A high-pitched whistle alerts the whole family to danger. Other individuals relay the warning, creating an echo across the entire valley. A circling bird above could be a golden eagle and pose a threat. But this particular predator has a different meal in mind. The bald eagle is the only eagle unique to North America. Despite its name, it isn't bald. And unlike the golden eagle, it isn't classed as a true eagle because its legs aren't completely feathered. It has a wingspan of over 2 meters and can weigh up to 5 kilograms. With binocular vision, a strong hooked beak, and powerful taloned feet, the bald eagle is an excellent predator. Their speciality is fishing, with fish making up around 90% of their diet. However, this requires a lot of energy, and it's thought that only 1 in 18 missions results in a catch. This bald eagle hasn't had a successful morning's fishing. As eagles don't sweat, panting is used to regulate body temperature. Catching the scent of food nearby, the eagle moves in. Dead or discarded fish make up a major part of the bald eagle's diet. This bird is no fussy eater, and somebody else's leftovers are a welcome meal. It shields the find from other predators, an act known as mantling. The mountains of the Vancouver Range extend the entire length of the island, giving rise to some of Canada's most spectacular waterfalls. Della Falls is the highest waterfall in Canada. Tumbling more than 440 meters over steep cliffs and down into Drinkwater Creek below. Fed by snow and glacial melt from the peaks, these falls carry fresh water to the network of rivers, lakes, and streams that intersect the island. These river valleys are home to one of the most important trees on the entire island, the western red cedar. This particular giant is over 18 meters in circumference and almost 60 meters tall. It's the largest tree in Canada and one of the largest red cedars in the world. Estimated to be 2,500 years old, it's one of the oldest living organisms on the planet. Red cedar's natural resistance to rot and insect damage meant the tree was of great importance for the island's early settlers. This half-finished warrior canoe still bears carving marks made before it was abandoned several centuries ago. Back then, people lived off the land and felt a deep spiritual connection with all living things. Carved cedar totem poles depict the crest animals of different family clans. Eagles, bears, and wolves are all of great significance. But one creature is held in utmost reverence: the Pacific salmon. The Namgis people have lived on the northeast coast of the island for millennia. Ancient culture is kept alive through oral history and ceremonies. Their ancestors relied on the salmon for survival, eagerly awaiting their return to the rivers each fall. Still today, the fish are an important part of their cultural heritage. The Namgis believe that long ago, when the world was young, a man was approached by a spirit being. The spirit asked him if he wanted to become a mountain. The man refused, because mountains can slide and crumble. He was then asked if he'd like to become a cedar tree. The man again answered no, as trees can split, fall, and rot. On being asked if he'd like to become a boulder, the reply was also negative. Boulders crack and crumble. Finally, when asked if he'd like to become a river, the man said yes. The spirit pushed the man down, saying, "There you will be a river for as long as the days dawn in the world, and you will be full of salmon, so that your descendants may never starve." The river became the largest on Vancouver Island and eventually bore the name of the Namgis. It's now known by its modern name, the Nimkish River. It's early October, and the black bears of Vancouver Island scour the rivers and streams for fish. At this time of year, they can spend up to 20 hours a day foraging for food. The island's largest predator, these bears can scale trees with ease, run at over 50 kilometers an hour, and swim long distances. But despite these impressive attributes, catching fish in these deep pools is easier said than done. Further upstream, on the Englishman River, one creature is having better luck, building up reserves for the winter ahead. Beavers are the largest rodents in North America, reaching over 1 meter in length. They spend their days making dams along the region's slower-moving waterways. The rivers eventually flood to create enormous ponds. These ponds provide still, deep water for protection against predators and on which to float food and building material. Beavers eat the leaves and inner bark of trees and shrubs, but will cut down huge tree trunks to help with their construction. Their front teeth never stop growing, and this constant chewing prevents them becoming too long. Next to humans, no other animal appears to do more to shape its own landscape. The vast, calm stretches of water in a beaver pond trap nutrients flowing downstream, creating a perfect habitat for aquatic invertebrates, which in turn provide fish with foraging opportunities not found in fast-flowing streams. These conditions play a key part in drawing one species of fish back to the island. To the north, in the Johnston Strait, the Pacific salmon are starting to converge. Each year, 500 million salmon leave the sea to return to their spawning grounds in the rivers of North America. Vancouver Island is the destination for millions of these determined fish. This is just the first stage of their testing journey. Further inland, the black bears are eager to greet them. On the southern tip of the island lies East Souk Park, 1,400 hectares of wilderness and protected coastal landscape. Another signal that change is fast approaching, this time from the skies. Each autumn, thousands of turkey vultures gather, creating a unique spectacle. They are the masters of soaring flight, making use of updrafts and rising thermal currents to keep them aloft. This way of traveling uses just a fraction more energy than when they're standing still. Turkey vultures breed along the entire length of the island, but when winter arrives, they head further south to mainland America. On reaching the cooler coastal air, they form large flocks, or kettles, waiting for the right conditions to make it across the strait. Although their eyesight is excellent, they are best known for their ability to locate food by smell. The part of their brain controlling this sense is 3 times larger than some other vulture species. Turkey vultures also lack a nasal septum, the partition between the nostrils. This enables more air to pass through, helping them to detect a decaying carcass from a great distance. Carrion makes up the majority of their diet, as they lack the sharp beak and talons used by other birds of prey to make a kill. With stomach acid believed to be up to 100 times stronger than ours, their presence is thought to curb the spread of disease. Even anthrax bacteria is killed off when consumed. Despite their decaying diet, turkey vultures are one of the cleanest animals around. Their featherless head and constant preening keeps germs and microbes to a minimum. To dry off and regulate their temperature, they adopt a spread wing posture, which also helps to bake off bacteria. With a full stomach, it's time to rejoin the flock ahead of the journey south. Shoals of salmon have worked their way inland. Using the Earth's magnetic field as a compass, they steer themselves home. As they get closer, their sense of smell will guide them to the exact place where they hatched. But they aren't home and dry yet. They pause, preparing to face the many obstacles that lie ahead. Bodies plump with eggs, as well as the bounty of the seas, these salmon were born to return to their spawning ground. And nothing short of death will stop them. They race against the current and launch themselves at the falls. The upwelling waters at the bottom give extra boost to their attempts. This is just the first of many. Some of the rapids and waterfalls they'll face will be powerful enough to eliminate all but the strongest salmon. Initial leaps are rarely successful. But these are determined fish. Eventually, perseverance pays off. Energy levels are vital if they are to make it to the end of their journey. These salmon haven't eaten since they left the sea. They rely solely on fat stores accumulated while in the ocean to keep them going. For some, the journey home is already taking its toll. Pausing for just a moment can be a costly mistake. Especially in black bear territory. Black bears are just one of 137 species thought to rely on the Pacific salmon for survival. But there is only a limited window in which to take advantage of this food influx. As the fish fill the rivers and streams en route to their spawning grounds, the bears search broken surface stretches of river, known as riffles. These are a favoured hiding spot of the Pacific salmon. But while the ripples may hide the salmon from the predator, they also hide the predators from the salmon. With a little bit of practice, they can be approached and plucked from the water with ease. Black bears play a unique part in supporting Vancouver Island's ecosystem. During the salmon run, each bear can carry hundreds of kilos of salmon out of the rivers and into the forest to consume. They focus on the most fatty parts, the brain, eggs, skin, and back muscles, sometimes eating as little as 5% of each fish they catch. This selective feeding helps them to nearly double their body weight in time for the winter, but it also has a significant effect on the surrounding land. When the discarded carcasses break down, nitrogen, phosphorus, and other nutrients are absorbed by the surrounding vegetation. Up to 70% of the nitrogen in some areas comes directly from the fish. Trees on the banks of salmon-stocked rivers can grow 3 times faster than those next to fish-free streams. Vancouver Island is home to the tallest Sitka spruce trees in Canada, possibly the world. At over 95 meters, they stand taller than a 30-story building. Here, Sitka spruce take only 86 years to reach a thickness of 50 centimeters, a process that would normally take 300 years. However, they don't have an easy time starting out. As seedlings, they must compete with dense mosses and smaller plants that carpet the forest floor. But help is at hand. Fallen trees provide an open growing area to the young saplings. These nurse logs give seeds a head start, a haven in which to germinate and develop. Over 90% of Sitka seedlings here start out this way. Fungi too play a crucial role in supporting this ecosystem, recycling nutrients from fallen trees and making nitrogen available to help young plants grow. They are a favorite of the Pacific banana slug, the second largest land slug in the world. They can grow up to 25 centimeters long. After eating, they excrete a nitrogen-rich fertilizer, spreading seeds and spores across the forest. The autumn rains are long overdue, and many of Vancouver Island's waterways are running at reduced flow. The salmon wait patiently, prevented from reaching their spawning grounds. But at last, changes in the air. Even the black bears can sense it. Soon rivers are in full flow. These salmon may have already traveled 6,400 kilometers. One last push will get them to their destination. They make their move. But so do the bears. Finally, the food they've been waiting for is here. And they'll work tirelessly to catch it. Each bear can consume up to 20,000 calories a day when stocking up for winter. And it's thought half the salmon in these streams won't make it. Despite the deluge of autumn rains, the rivers remain relatively clear and free of debris. Tree roots in the surrounding forest hold the soil, which filters water before it enters the streams. These rivers contain some of the purest water in the world, ideal for the Pacific salmon. For those who do manage to avoid the bears and reach their destination, a final challenge lies ahead. After their epic journey, the males are gaunt from starvation, with grotesquely humped backs, hooked jaws, and tattered fins. Many females are covered in white patches of bruised and damaged skin. Fortunately, they're nearing the end of their mission. Now the females must battle each other for the prize nesting positions. The males take up their place behind, prepared to fight off competitors. Finally, the female chooses her moment and lays a batch of eggs. The male instantly moves in to fertilize them. She will lay around 4,000 eggs in a series of nests, covering each one with gravel to protect against predators and stop them drifting away. But it's not just the bears who've been waiting for the salmon. Flocks of glaucous-winged gulls paddle their feet along the river bottom in the hope of dislodging eggs for a protein-rich delicacy. Dippers have come to take advantage too. The eggs make a welcome change from their usual diet of aquatic insect larvae. However, capitalizing on the large salmon spawn can sometimes throw up its own problems. For every 4,000 salmon eggs laid, only 800 will successfully hatch. Only 200 will make the journey back to the sea. And just 2 of these salmon will return to their spawning grounds to complete the cycle. In making it this far, these adult salmon are the ultimate survivors. Their job is done. Their final act marks the end of their life. They have given their all to reproduce just once. From a combination of exhaustion and the effects of moving from salt to fresh water, they breathe their last in the same streams they started out in. Their death will release nutrients to feed the aquatic food web, which in turn will nurture the next generation of Pacific salmon. By sacrificing their bodies, they ensure Vancouver Island will remain teeming with life through the winter ahead. The shorelines, forests and mountainous peaks of Vancouver Island are home to a whole host of creatures. They are supported by a network of rivers and creeks which carry the fuel for many forms of life. But each year, as winter approaches, the animals on land and at sea must face their greatest challenges. By making the most of opportunities when they can, the animals of Vancouver Island battle to survive these seasons of change. The Falkland Islands, a windswept wilderness and isolated outpost. Thousands of kilometers of rugged cliffs and unspoiled coastline provides a haven for millions of aquatic birds and amphibious mammals. From the vulnerable and innocent to the deadliest and most fearsome predators on Earth. There may be safety in numbers on dry land, but there's a battle for survival in the waters which surround these wild southern shores. lying just over 1,300 kilometers from Antarctica, the Falklands is one of the most southerly island chains in the world. This remote archipelago is located 480 kilometers from the tip of South America. Its rugged beauty reveals a perpetual battle with the elements. Crashing waves leave scars on weather-beaten cliffs as high winds gust across a treeless horizon. Less than 5% of these 700 islands are inhabited by humans. And with no native land mammals or reptiles, the lifeless landscape appears almost barren. But looking out to sea tells a very different story. These turbulent coastal waters are teeming with life. Rockhopper penguins breed on the islands from October to April. They nest on cliff tops, giving them sanctuary from stormy seas. But first, they must make it to dry land. Enlarged sternums and fused rib cages allow them to land on hard rocks without harm. But this is just the start of a rockhopper's daily trial. Scaling the 100-meter cliffs to reach their colony is the biggest challenge. They're remarkable climbers, making short hops to get around. So it's not hard to see how rockhoppers got their name. Nerves of steel are needed to scale these treacherous cliffs. One slip here would see them falling to a rocky grave. Webbed feet and sharp claws give traction on steeper sections. For generations, millions of rockhopper feet have gouged grooves into the smooth, wet rocks, offering some extra grip, providing you stick to the path. Predatory seals would struggle to follow these courageous climbers. Falkland fur seals can reach 2 meters in length and weigh more than 150 kilograms, 50 times heavier than a rockhopper. Fur seals are able to run on all 4 flippers and have external ear flaps, as sea lions do. However, fur seals have an extra pair of crushing teeth. It looks like these plucky penguins have a death wish, hopping right through the middle of the seal colony. Approximately 15,000 fur seals make the Falklands their home, and many choose to haul out in this rocky bay. Rockhoppers are the smallest penguins on the islands, and surely the bravest. Nothing will stop these determined penguins reaching their breeding ground. Even a herd of seals blocking their path. But they're taking a calculated risk. Rockhoppers have been sharing this cove with fur seals for generations. Elsewhere, fur seals are known to attack and kill penguins. But this particular colony seems more tolerant than most. Rockhoppers breed at 35 sites in the Falklands. But by choosing New Island, this group of penguins have made life particularly hard for themselves. Over on Saunders Island, another colony of rockhoppers seems to have a much easier life. Just a short hop from their landing site is nature's own penguin spa. This freshwater spring allows the rockhoppers to rest and wash salt from their feathers before continuing their climb to the rookery. Splashing and drinking the cool, clean water is part of the daily ritual for many of the island's residents. But taking too long in the shower is against bathing etiquette. Back on New Island, the mountaineers are nearing their goal. Clumps of tussock grass crown the cliffs. The rockhoppers meander through the maze of tunnels created by these 2-meter-tall plants. After a long journey, these intrepid climbers finally summit, rejoining their colony. With over 300,000 pairs, rockhoppers are the most numerous penguin on the Falklands. This rookery alone holds 6,000 pairs, though some exceed 100,000. Not only do they return to the same breeding location each year, they return to exactly the same nests. Rockhoppers will lay 2 eggs. However, the first is often smaller than the second and is also last to hatch. The smaller chick rarely survives, so the parents usually end up raising just 1 fledgling. There can be as many as 3 nests per square meter. When space is such a squeeze, tempers can quickly fray. The surviving chicks have no choice but to grow up fast. Rockhopper penguins rely mostly on a diet of krill and squid. In a single feed, a hungry chick can consume over 10% of their body weight in part-digested seafood. Competition for a mate can also be fierce. Ecstatic displays are used to mark territory and warn others away. Partners perform this act in unison to help strengthen their pair bond. Even within the safety of the colony, the threat of danger still hangs in the air. With a hawk on the hunt, chicks huddle together for safety. At this time of year, red-backed buzzards also have young mouths to feed. Rockhoppers share their colonies with a famous flying fisherman. King cormorants nest just a short pecking distance from their neighbors. Unlike rockhoppers, cormorants often have 3 mouths to feed. And more chicks need bigger nests. A good excuse for stealing your neighbor's bedding. With their time taken up at the nest, neither parent has time to go fishing. But that doesn't stop these hungry chicks from begging. With nothing left to give, their mother has no choice but to turn the other cheek. Black-browed albatross also join rockhoppers in dense colonies on the cliffsides, happily nesting beside their flightless friends. Most of their lives are spent at sea, but in September, adults return to raise their young, revisiting the same pot-shaped nests each year. These albatross can live for over 50 years, and usually won't breed until they're 10 years old. From the age of 2, they practice some of the most elaborate mating displays in the animal world, which will one day find them a mate for life. "70% of the world's black-browed albatross nest on the islands, with an estimated 500,000 pairs colonizing these breeding sites. And the reason lies just offshore. Cold currents off New Ireland's west coast support some of the richest fishing grounds in the world. Parents can fly over 300 kilometers on a single fishing trip, only visiting their chick every other day. On their return, they spend time getting reacquainted. After a little preening, they regurgitate a blend of seafood and a vitamin-rich oil, which is produced from a special gland in their stomachs. Chicks can put on a kilo of weight in a little over a week and will sit on the nest until around 16 weeks old, before making their maiden voyages out to sea. As adults, they could spend over 80% of their lives scanning the storm-tossed southern seas for food. They won't return to these cliffs for about a decade, until mature enough to breed. With a wingspan of up to 2.5 meters, they glide effortlessly above the oceans and are one of the most graceful birds on the planet. Sea Lion Island is one of the southernmost points of the archipelago. Nearly 8 kilometers long from east to west and about 2 kilometers wide, it is outlined by sheer cliffs and sandy bays. It's here that the world's largest amphibious mammal chooses to haul out. Southern elephant seals are the biggest of any seal species. Males can reach over 6 meters in length and weigh more than 4 tons, as much as a small truck. Elephant seals get their name from the male's trunk-like snout. These inflatable protrusions help amplify their roars, which can be heard over a kilometer away. They spend up to 10 months of the year at sea, only coming ashore to breed and shed their skins. These young males will spend the next few weeks on land while they molt. Adolescents hone their fighting skills in preparation for the day they'll challenge the dominant bull for a harem of their own. High-ranking males can father up to 100 pups each season, so they've plenty at stake. As the battles heat up, a group of spectators gathers. For now, they're just sparring, so there's no blood spilled. But while absorbed in their contest, this pair is oblivious of the submarine killers lurking in the shallows. Orca, the largest and most predatory of the dolphin family. Waiting to take advantage of any stray pups. Pods numbering 40 individuals are a mix of ages and sexes. The male's unmistakable dorsal fins grow to nearly 2 meters tall, while the female's smaller fins are sometimes mistaken for sharks. These killer whales are no less deadly and will prey on most sea life, but they specialize in taking seal pups from the water's edge. This pod knows exactly when the elephant seals are breeding and will visit the same beaches at the same time each year. They patrol the rocky coves and use shallow water hunting techniques to ambush pups which venture too far from their nursery pools. Killer by name, killer by nature. A trail of blood draws scavengers to the kill. But these apex predators haven't always had such a free rein. About a century ago, all whale species around the Falklands were considered a marine resource and hunted freely. Their thick blubber was harvested for oil and used as fuel for lamps and heating. Fortunately, no species became extinct before the industry here collapsed, and whale populations are now thought to have stabilized. Rusty boilers and abandoned whaling camps are all that remains of the Falklands whaling industry. Now there's another natural resource islanders use for heating, and it lies just beneath their feet. Peat consists of partially decayed plant matter and covers around 85% of the archipelago. It is often seen as the earliest stage in the formation of coal. Once cut, each 20-centimetre square block is left to dry for a whole year before being used. Many islanders rely on this vast and free resource to fuel their fires and cooking stoves. The heat from a kilo of peat equals that of around half a kilo of coal when burned. Nutrient-rich peat provides the perfect fertile soil for tussock grass. The layer beneath the grass can be 10 meters deep. Before it was cleared by the earlier settlers, much of the coastline was covered by this grass. Some of the plants are at least 200 years old. and provide a perfect windbreak and shelter for nesting birds and penguin burrows. Penguins are masters at adapting to their environment, and these Falkland Island residents have made themselves quite at home. Magellanic penguins stand approximately 70 centimetres tall and weigh around 6 kilos. For 6 months of the year, they live, sleep and eat on the waves before reuniting with the same breeding partner on dry land. Magellanics are one of the most faithful species in the animal kingdom. One recorded relationship spans 16 years. Research has shown, however, that couples who are unsuccessful in their attempts to hatch a chick will separate, divorcing each other to find new partners. Unlike all the island's other penguins that choose to nest in vast open colonies, Magellanics prefer a little more privacy. Of all the penguin species inhabiting the Falklands, Magellanics are the only ones that nest underground. They make their homes a little way inland, creating a safe hideaway from predators. This striated caracara is a member of the falcon family and one of the world's most intelligent birds of prey. It has a wingspan of over 1 meter in length, and though it's a swift aerial predator, chooses to spend a great deal of time on the ground. And this Magellanic burrow should be an easy target. With a young family nested inside, parents aggressively defend their dugouts against potential threats. But it's not only birds of prey trying to evict them. They must also see off these newlyweds in search of their first home. Donkey-like brays are used in courtship as well as in conflict. These calls have earned this penguin another name, the jackass. Magellanics are common on the Falklands and breed across the whole group of islands. One group living here among the tussock grass faces a number of obstacles on their early morning fishing trips. Unlike rockhoppers, Magellanic penguins prefer to run and belly slide. For some, negotiating even a small jump proves challenging. Support and encouragement from another member of the group eventually pays off. Another flightless bird shares this coastline. Standing 25 centimeters tall, it weighs approximately 3.5 kilos, which makes it one of the largest ducks on the planet. The steamer duck's coastal habitat is hospitable all year round, making migration unnecessary. Falkland steamer ducks last took to the air several thousand years ago and have since become expert swimmers. Short, stubby wings help propel it across the waves, much like a paddle steamer, at speeds of up to 24 kilometers per hour. They appear more at home on the water, lacking the same grace on dry land, and try as they might, the laws of physics prevent them from taking off. Mating pairs are often aggressive and highly territorial, but these unattached youngsters are happy to gather in small flocks. Reduced wing size and a bigger body assists diving. And larger birds use less energy to regulate their body temperature. This rare bird is found nowhere else on Earth, making it one of the few endemic species on the Falklands. Further round the coast on Sea Lion Island, southern sea lions are preparing to breed. Over 5,000 have made the Falkland Islands their permanent home. With manes as majestic as their feline namesakes, and a roar to match. Adult males grow to just under 3 meters in length and can weigh up to 350 kilos, larger than their big cat counterparts. Southern sea lion females are around 3 times smaller than the males, the greatest size differential among all sea lion species. Successful males will see their pups being born in a year's time. At just a few days old, they already weigh around 15 kilograms. Sea lion milk contains around 30% fat, 10 times more nutritious than cow's milk. With little mouths to feed as well as her own, this mother heads off to forage. Pups and their mothers can be separated for up to 2 days at a time. Fortunately, when hunger kicks in, any teat will do. Awkward and cumbersome on dry land. In the water, sea lions are aquatic acrobats and master fishermen. She joins the others to form a pod which hunts as a group, fishing for anchovies. Schooling the fish into tightly packed bait balls. They can remain underwater for up to 40 minutes before they must surface for air. Young males keen to start families of their own patrol the breeding colonies. Just 6 days after giving birth, the females are ready to mate again. Seeing one of the bulls otherwise engaged, the outsider makes his move. His mission is short-lived. Adolescent intruders are seen as a threat by all the breeding colony bulls. Sea lions patrol the entire coast of the Falklands. Even the most remote islands receive year-round visits. The Falkland Archipelago is made up of 2 main islands, East and West Falkland, and over 700 smaller islands and islets, comprising a land area of just over 12,000 square kilometers, approximately the size of Connecticut. The Falklands landscape was sculpted by the harsh polar climate of the last ice age, which ended around 10,000 years ago. These rivers of rocks are known as stone runs. They were formed when the freeze-thaw cycles cracked and broke up the bedrock, creating fragmented quartzite boulders of between 2 and 5 meters across. They're one of the most striking geological features on the Falklands, and at over 4 kilometers long and 400 meters wide, they're the longest stone runs in the world. These dramatic geological features fascinated the naturalist Charles Darwin when he visited these South Atlantic islands in 1833. He thought they'd been created by ground movements during earthquakes, though we now know he was mistaken. One of the accurate discoveries Darwin made was that the types of fossils he found on the islands were very different from those he found in Patagonia, just 500 kilometers away. In fact, they are more similar to those found in Africa, providing evidence that these rocks originated thousands of kilometers from the South American continent, where they now rest. Most of the natural vegetation here is grassland, as the Falklands lack indigenous tree cover. Much of the landscape is given to agriculture, which forms a major part of the island's economy, and it's dominated by sheep farming. Around 500,000 sheep are scattered across the archipelago, but for every walking ball of wool, there are approximately 2 shuffling towers of feathers. King penguins. At nearly a meter high and weighing around 15 kilos, they are the second largest penguins on Earth. Here on East Falkland, around 1,000 of these regal birds return each year to breed and raise a single chick. Preening is essential for staying in top condition and, of course, looking good to attract a mate. A special gland at the base of the tail secretes oil, which is used to waterproof feathers and skin. Once a year, adults molt. Old plumage is pushed out in patches once new feathers beneath are fully grown. So the penguins remain warm throughout the month-long process. King penguins are one of the only species to have more than one partner in their lifetime, giving them plenty of opportunity to practice courtship rituals. This male's trumpet-like calls also help attract female attention. She confirms her interest, and the pair embark on a courtship walk. This king appears to have found his queen, but it seems she has another suitor. It isn't just males who fight each other over mates. King penguin girls do battle over boys too. Outflippered, the challenger backs down, leaving the couple to synchronize and consummate their bond away from the crowd. A single fertilized egg will be incubated for around 55 days. Carefully balanced on top of their feet, it is kept warm using a patch of loose skin called a brood patch. Kings have the longest breeding cycle of all penguin species, taking 15 months from laying to fledging. These chicks are about a year old. They're so visually different from the grown-ups, 19th century scientists classified these youngsters as a separate woolly penguin species. Parents are able to identify their chick by its unique modulated whistle. Communicating hunger is crucial when entirely dependent on adults for food. Couples share parenting duties equally. They'll take turns to stay at home and look after their chick, while their partner goes off for a day's fishing. Fish and squid make up the majority of the king penguin's diet. They can travel more than 300 kilometers offshore to reach their feeding grounds and use a swimming technique known as porpoising to breathe while maintaining speed. The fishing party returns to the sound of excitement from hungry beaks. But not everyone has cause to celebrate. This youngster hasn't had a meal in weeks. He appears to have been abandoned. The fate of his parents remains a mystery, but many of those who head out to sea fail to return. These king penguins are reluctant to enter the water, and with good reason. A predator is on the prowl, and penguins are a favorite treat. But one appears unaware of the threat. Magellanic penguins are around half the size of their regal counterparts, but to a hungry sea lion, they're still a tasty snack. The ocean is the great provider for all who live on these islands. Though each must conquer their fears if they are to feed. For now, perhaps, it's not worth the risk. On remote islands, many inhabitants have no choice but to be partly self-sufficient. Each year, around 2,000 Gentoo penguin eggs are taken and used for food. Special licenses allow islanders to collect a strictly limited number for personal consumption. Gentoos are one of the few penguins known to lay a repeat clutch should they lose the first one. So theirs are the most common eggs to be taken. And whilst their population numbers do fluctuate, they have averaged about 100,000 pairs over the last 75 years. Gentoo penguins stand approximately 75 centimeters tall, making them the third largest species. They may only achieve a bronze medal for height, but in a swimming contest, they take the gold. Gentoos are the fastest swimming birds in the world, reaching a top speed of up to 40 kilometers an hour, torpedo-like bodies and flattened flippers enable them to fly underwater. Lobster krill makes up the majority of their diet. Both parents go fishing about 16 kilometers from the colony, and they'll each make up to 450 dives per trip. After 8 hours at sea, the fishing fleet returns. Their bellies heavy with fish. Unlike other penguin species, gentoos raise 2 chicks at a time. Having 2 mouths to feed not only doubles the parent's fishing duties, it creates another problem. 3-week-old chicks constantly beg for food, so knowing which was fed last and which is hungriest is anyone's guess. But gentoo parents have a unique trick up their sleeves. A game called chick chase. This high-speed challenge ensures meals are shared equally between offspring. The fastest and most determined chick is usually the hungriest. The less persistent sibling gives up, ensuring the needier chick gets his share. Not all members of the colony are capable of raising chicks yet. Gentoos can't reproduce until they're 2 years old. Even so, nest building is a skill worth practicing. As is getting to know the dangers of colony life. Caracaras are able to walk and run more efficiently than other raptors, as their talons are flatter in shape. Although primarily scavengers, they'll attempt to seize unguarded penguin chicks and abandoned eggs. Cracking this shell proves harder than it looks, especially with beak and claws better tuned for tearing flesh. Another opportunist has nest raiding down to a fine art. The Falkland skua could teach the caracara a thing or two about cracking eggs. Hovering just out of reach above the gentoos' heads, this skua takes an aerial approach. A fiercely hooked beak is the perfect tool for piercing shells with a single strike. The midday summer sun approaches 25 degrees and takes its toll on the gentoo chicks. Thick layers of insulating fur and fat may protect them at sea, but can have the opposite effect on dry land. heat stroke is an invisible killer. Panting helps regulate body temperature to some degree, as does exposing their feet, but provides little relief from the relentless sun. The heat is proving too much for this youngster. Caracaras are quick to take advantage of the weak and defenseless. The chick's parents do all they can to fend off the assault. But as others join the attack, resistance is futile. A large penguin chick could keep these scavengers fed for many days. The day starts early for all Falkland Island penguins. Adult gentoos make their way down to the sea. Their chicks have become more demanding, so parents now make daily fishing trips. Back at the colony, the youngsters deter predators by huddling together, an act known as crashing. The safety in numbers approach also applies at the water's edge. A sea lion launches a surprise attack, causing confusion as the gentoos scatter. But this amphibious mammal is a persistent hunter, especially in shallow water. The gentoos cautiously approach the water's edge. The coast looks clear. But the sea lion has a master plan. He launches his ambush. The penguins scatter, trying to outrun their pursuer. But one gets separated from the pack. In these turbulent waters, not a scrap of food will go to waste. These remote islands provide a haven for wildlife. And for some, a daily battle to survive. A bountiful ocean offers lifelines to many, and the greatest threats to a few. Not all will survive to support the next generation, but for each and every loss, there are others who gain, ensuring an abundance of life is always sustained on these wild and windswept Penguin Isles.